I am not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV, radio, or the internet. Any advice given on this broadcast is purely for entertainment and research purposes only. Use at your own risk. This video complies with YouTube guidelines for science and education. Please enjoy the program. The Not So Secret Sauce Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. It is Marvelous Matt, and welcome to the Not So Secret Sauce Podcast. With me today is Coach Isaiah Mitchell. He is a fellow health and fitness coach. And today we are going to chat a little bit about some of the basics that we all kind of need to remember and be refreshed on. New Year's is coming up, and every year at New Year's, we get the whole new year, new me mentality. It just seems to be a good time of year to reevaluate your life, reevaluate your processes, and, everything that you're going through, everything that you're doing and can do. And I thought it would be a good idea to have Coach Mitchell on to help us basically, not so much on the gear side of things, because we all have the things that we like to do on that, but he's an expert in the actual fitness and nutrition side of things. And if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, that's where most of us struggle. Most of us know, what compounds we get along with and which compounds we don't. But I think sometimes we forget to, the bare building blocks, the bottom of that, pyramid is, it's the entire bottom 50% is nutrition. The next 40% is your training. It's that top 10% that the gear helps with. And we have a tendency to focus on that. So I think it's a good idea for us to occasionally go back and focus on that bottom 90%. And I couldn't think of anybody better than Coach Mitchell to be on to help me with that. And so, Coach Mitchell, thank you for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I also want to say, not a doctor. I love that you put that intro in there. I am not here to give any medical plan, medical cure, medical treatment. All of this is, like Matt said in the intro, for educational purposes only. So not a doctor. And I couldn't agree more with everything you said there about people setting overly ambitious goals during this time of year. The majority of the population still struggling with what to eat, how much to eat, when do I eat, should I be fasting, should I be doing keto, should I be doing this, that, and the other thing. And I feel like we've gotten so dogmatic in our dietary approaches, and this is, no fault of our own. We're very tribal, just as a species. It's what we do. We create teams, we create camps, we create tribes. We're all in on that tribe, and we don't even want to talk to the other people that are in a different tribe, whether that be, the best example would be like vegan, vegetarian, and now carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Carnivore was birthed literally just as a response to the vegan and vegetarian community to show them, like, hey, I can still build an impressive physique and not eat a single vegetable. But that doesn't mean that's optimal.
Agreed. And that's actually, as a coach, that's one of the biggest issues that I have with getting my clients to understand that, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a bad food. There's no such thing as a bad food group, or along the lines of keto is not necessarily better than intermittent fasting. It depends on the person. It depends on what's going to help you achieve your goals. But I really love the fact that you use the word dogmatic, because a lot of people are very tribal and very dogmatic. They get it in their head that this is what works for me and nothing else will work for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially in the nutrition space. Like, I don't get, like, people get angry, man. Like, people get really mad when you try to even just present them with some, like, actual evidence. Like, here's some human outcome data, like a meta-analysis of multiple randomized control trials. They're just like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the best thing ever created. And most of the time, like, where these diets come from is some doctor or, physician that's not even trained in nutrition, tried out some diet, improved his health a little bit. And he's like, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
That's how most of these were birthed.
Yeah. Or my personal favorite is the trainers that read a headline and then and I say trainers, it could be anybody, reads a headline and either cuts out an entire food group or something because of a headline saying this study says, and they don't actually take the time to research it properly and read the study. My favorite one to quote on that is the aspartame causes cancer study that came out in the late 90s. And the quick and dirty of it is that if you actually read the study, the 3 mistakes they made: first, they used small mice. Rats are better for testing this kind of stuff than mice, but rats aren't men. Number 2, they injected it in a saline solution instead of letting it be eaten and digested.
Because we all do that.
Exactly. You know, I'm shooting up 50 cc's of aspartame every day. And the third thing that they didn't do was they didn't adjust the dosage for milligrams per kilogram. And if you actually adjusted that dosage for a 200-pound male, it's literally a 55-gallon drum of aspartame you have to inject every day to get the same results.
Yep.
But
avoid that headline.
Yeah, avoid the headline. Do the research, or what I like to tell people, whether it's myself, hire a coach. Hire somebody who knows what they're talking about. And I'm a firm believer when you hire a coach, you need to hire somebody that you have researched, that you can trust, and you believe in their process.
Yeah, and I want people to vet me. I want people to, if I give you a recommendation, go out and look it up, do your own research. But that, I think, is a problem in and of itself, is that the average person has no idea how to read scientific research. Like,
Agreed.
They'll maybe just see like the abstract, like just the average person going on PubMed is like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
How do I read all this? Like, what happened in the study? They don't know how to decipher a well-done study from a poorly done study. Things like, sample size, duration, what was controlled for, what wasn't controlled for. There's so many different variables that go into that. So that's a problem in and of itself.
I agree wholeheartedly, and it's funny that, and I'll get us back on topic here in a second, but I find it very funny that we literally have the infinite knowledge of the universe at our fingertips, and very few of us know how to use it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like literally any question that you could ever want to ask, you can find an expert within 30 seconds. But like you said, not everyone knows how to read or translate that kind of stuff. But that, once again, that's when I say that's why you hire a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
with New Year's coming up, what are some basic nutrition? I hesitate to use the word tips or rules.
Like
but
staples.
Just the staples that
pillars, if you
will. Pillars is the words I like to use for stuff like this. Yes. So what are some general pillars for people to, as they're either starting their fitness journey or reevaluating their fitness journey, to look at?
Right. So I don't really think, I don't know if people, like, percentage wise, if we just like took a poll of how many people just never have a plan in the first place, or people have a plan and it's just not the right plan. So that's the first thing we need to establish, is actually putting together a plan, looking ahead at your year and mapping out what this is going to look like and how your lifestyle fits into that. If you're trying to fit in a dieting phase, in a phase of your life that's extremely stressful, and you're just burning the candle at both ends, you're just setting yourself up for failure right off the bat. So we have to set realistic expectations. We have to set a realistic time frame. And we need to be honest with ourselves about what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do. And then we can really start putting together a plan and talking about things that are fundamental for this process. So generally speaking, I'm guessing we're talking about losing body fat. Because I think when people are setting New Year's resolutions, just when you hear those words, New Year's resolutions, I think stop smoking and lose body fat. Those are the things I think of.
I would agree with that. I would say that the majority of the people that are starting this are definitely the I've put on way too much weight and I need to get down in some body fat. But yeah, I would say definitely the majority of people are going to be wanting to lose fat. Yes.
Awesome. So this might be a little controversial, but I no longer start people with nutrition, with tracking and macros and all that different kind of stuff. This can be very overwhelming. It's annoying. It's tedious. There's a learning curve to it. But just like any other thing, like every single skill, to get to a baseline level of efficiency where you just don't feel like you suck at it, takes 20 hours. 20 hours of actually doing the thing. The problem is most people never even get close to that 20 hours, so they can't even get good at the skill of tracking their food. So I start people now with strength training. We're going to start with weightlifting because that behavior drives the nutritional behaviors we want. You're going to start feeling better in the gym. You're going to start having more energy. You're going to be stronger, less pain. That's going to motivate you to make the other changes that you know are in that puzzle that we also need to fill. So strength training anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week. I even have some clients doing as little as 15 minutes a day of strength training. And of course, we just equate for volume, all the different things like that. But ultimately, that's going to come down to personal preference, your ability to recover, your nutrient status. Obviously, if you're, stuck at a metabolic capacity of 1,200 calories, 6 days a week in the gym is not what you need to be doing. This person needs to be like just walking. So that's the first thing I'm going to establish is getting somebody in the gym, learning the compound movements, getting comfortable in that environment, or even from home. And then we can start to talk about food. So we have to get everyone here on the same page about one fundamental thing, and that is the law of thermodynamics. None of us are defying that. You are not eating 1,000 calories every day and not losing weight. Something is going unaccounted for here, or something in your equation is off. You've either miscalculated how many calories you need to eat, you've either overestimated how many calories you're burning, or both, which throws the whole equation off, leaving you thinking this doesn't work. My body is broken. My metabolism is broken. And that's simply not the case. So we have to get on the same page about energy balance. Calories in versus calories out equals weight loss. This equals weight gain. That's how it works. It's the law of thermodynamics. So in order to lose body fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit. Now, when people hear this, usually the first thing they think, and I did as well, is I'm going to do a shit ton of cardio. I'm just like, when I started my fitness journey, I would run 7 miles a day after school until I threw up. It worked very well until I couldn't do it anymore and the weight came right back. And another thing I want to mention about cardio is we're always sending an adaptation signal to the body. If you only do cardio, you do not lift weights at all, or if the level of weight training to cardio starts to become like this, you're doing more cardio than weight training, your body is going to become more efficient with calories, and that's not what we want. That's the quote unquote slower metabolism.
My mom was an amateur bodybuilder, so I grew up around bodybuilders, and her coach, and I'm not going to say which big name bodybuilder from back in the 80s said it because I don't want to misquote somebody and say it was one and it wasn't, but he knew, he had met and trained with Arnold and Frank Zane and all of them. So, but he said that when he was talking to my mom about her cardio, and I'll never forget this because, I used it when I needed to lose my weight. When you're doing cardio for fat loss, it either needs to be stupid easy or stupid hard.
Yeah.
Because anything in the middle, your body is going to adapt to very quickly.
Yep.
At least if it's stupid easy, your body doesn't send as many adaptive signals. If it's stupid hard, it's difficult for your body to adapt to it. But that middle ground of, going for a jog, for example, versus doing, some actual HIIT training, your body's going to adapt to jogging a whole lot faster than it's going to adapt to real HIIT training.
Yeah. Yeah. And things like HIIT training can be used very intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have an entire maybe only like a 9-week program of just HIIT, but it's still strength training, but HIIT style. So we're still sending a muscle building signal to the body, but we're burning a shit ton of calories. But the thing is, I said it's only 9 weeks. This isn't something we can do for a long period of time before we get back to the traditional strength training. So we need to make strength training the cornerstone of our routine. Cardio is supplemental. It's fine, but I don't want you to do cardio as a means to burn body fat. Do it as a means of improving your health, your cardiovascular health, all of that different kind of stuff. You need to dial in the nutrition. That is the biggest lever we can pull when it comes to changing body composition. So you've got to figure out your total daily energy expenditure. This is the total amount of calories your body is burning every day. Now, of course, we don't live the same day every day, so this is a moving target, but we can find an average. There's tons of online calculators you can use. And for the listeners, like I said, most of us are focused on fat loss. The easiest way I found for this is just take your body weight, multiply that by 10 to 12, somewhere in there, and then you need to track for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, tracking everything you eat, Sunday through Sunday, not Monday through Friday, and then, girls' night on the weekend, you eat yourself out of the deficit. That's usually what happens. People are like, I eat 1,400 calories every day. And then we look Monday through Friday, 1,400, Saturday, Sunday, 2,500, 2,500. Now you're in a net like 50 calorie deficit for the entire week. So another keystone habit. So I think we've covered that you need to be in a calorie deficit quite enough.
Yes.
Protein intake is very, very, very important. We want to retain as much muscle mass as possible, if not build more during this process. So for protein requirements, and this has been very well established, yet they're still doing studies on it. We're looking at 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you are someone in the obese category, I want you to use your target body weight. If you know your lean body mass, even better.
That's actually one of the things that we go back to, what we were talking about earlier about people being so adamant about things. You hear, so many different numbers on that stuff. But at the end of the day, like you just said, it's been proven. And there are still people that are going to fight against it. And, I think that personally is with my clients is the absolute hardest part with, overcoming that, the preconceived notions of what they said. Back to, and I'm going to real quickly segue to, I absolutely love that you start with strength training, because that is something that I have adopted in the past year. For the same reasons. I've learned that people will focus more on their nutrition after they've put in the effort in the gym, because now it's a lot of it's psychological. They have to have that. I'm going to the gym 4 days a week for an hour every day. I'm doing all this, cardio, and I'm doing this strength training. I'm doing this. I want to get the most out of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I absolutely love that you've adopted that.
I had one of my in-person clients today. I don't know if it's the same for you, but the male clients are definitely the hardest.
I actually find I find it when it comes to convincing them that they're training incorrectly, that my male clients are the absolute hardest. But when it comes to their nutrition is off, it's the female clients that I have the most trouble with.
Interesting.
Now, what I've started doing with the nutrition is I do the same thing. I make them track, I call it our food diary, and I make them religiously track everything for 2 weeks. And I have a saying that I use. I want you to be 100% accurate, because I cannot make accurate changes to a diet with inaccurate data.
I can't tell you how many times I've sent someone that exact message, dude.
Yeah. And I think that is, I think that's one of the big mistakes that people make, is even people with the best of intentions are being either lackadaisical in their tracking, or they don't think about I only used, they're guesstimating I only used 1 ounce of ranch dressing with my salad, but it's a 3 ounce souffle cup,
Right.
so it's,
Yeah, it's like, are we eyeballing here? Did you put that on the scale? Are you taking bites of your kid's food and not accounting for it? That's a
mm-hmm.
huge one with my female client. Stop eating
Yeah.
your kid's food.
Yeah.
That's his food. You go make your food. Eat that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And eating, another big one that I've come across is people not realizing that while they're preparing food, they're eating while they're preparing. It's like,
Yeah.
I've got to taste this to make sure that the seasoning is right. Oh, that's close. Let me taste it again. That's close. Let me taste it again. Next thing you know, there's an extra, ounce, 2 ounces of something,
Mhm.
which depending on what it is can add up, to a decent amount of calories at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, 2 untracked tablespoons of coffee cream, 540 calories a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in a 500 calorie deficit, you're now in a 40 calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Just from your coffee creamer, which is 35 calories a tablespoon.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that when I'm starting with newer people, that I think that's why in my opinion, the nutrition diary is so important. Is it actually, a lot of people have never done this before. They've never bothered to actually try to track something, and it lots of times it's inaccurate tracking that ends up causing the delay.
Yeah, either inaccurate tracking, inaccurate calculation, or both.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing. Can you do me a favor? Share the your formula for calories burned again for me.
Oh, for to calculate for fat loss.
Mm-hmm.
The simple equation. I want to caveat: it's not the most accurate. It's a very good place to start. Is just take your body weight and multiply that by 10 to 12. So 10, 11, or 12. Probably start on the 12 side. Track that for 2 weeks, see what's happening. If things aren't moving along, take out another 100, 200 calories until we're seeing about half a pound to 2 pounds of loss per week. And that's going to be on average. Some weeks you're going to lose 4 pounds. Some weeks you're going to lose 0. Some weeks you're going to lose 1. Some weeks you're going to gain 2. You have to be able to zoom out and look at the big picture. I think you can tell a lot about someone's success going forward in how they think about this in terms of timeline. Are they talking days, weeks, or are we talking weeks, months, potentially years?
I agree.
It took years to gain is going to take years to lose. It's really, really hard for some people to hear.
I actually had to explain that to a client today. Over the past 5 years, they've put on 50 pounds, so an average of 10 pounds a year. And I've been working with him for about 3 months, and he's down 4 pounds. But he also doesn't want, a very high calorie deficit. So, he came to me upset because he feels like he should be losing more weight for everything he's sacrificing, in his words. And I was just like, I understand that, but you're only in about 1,000 calorie deficit per week. I said, so that's going to put you at roughly a pound, little more, a month.
Yeah, that's really.
If everything, I'm just like, so where you want to be at with what you're willing to sacrifice at this point for your goals, you're looking at about a pound a month or 12 pounds a year, which when you factor in that you gained 10 pounds a year over the past 5 years, if you do stay on track where you're at right now, you're going to be 60 pounds lighter at the end of that same 5 years. It took you 5 years to gain the weight. It doesn't have to take you 5 years to lose it, but you're also not going to lose it overnight.
Yeah, and I think a re-encouraging thing to know for anyone that is in the obese category, you've got 100, 200, 300 pounds to lose, we can go a lot faster and still be healthy, still be a sustainable process. So usually when I'm calculating someone's, I do the whole Harris-Benedict formula by hand. It's a lot of math, but it allows me to lay out for people the total deficit we need to create, the daily deficit we need to create, how much we're going to be losing per week, and how many weeks that's going to take. When you're able to put a plan like that in front of somebody, and they can see it. Oh, okay. I think I can actually stick with this. I know what to expect. So usually I'll take someone's body weight, multiply that by 0.8%, and that's going to give us the upper end of how fast we can lose per week. So for someone in the obese category, that could be 3 to 5 pounds a week. And we're still more than likely eating a pretty good amount of calories, like probably 2,500 to 3,000 while losing. And that's the really encouraging thing about when you figure out tracking. It's empowering because you realize you're actually in control of how your body changes. I feel like so many of us feel like we're just a slave to our body. We're just gaining weight. Like I'm sure that client that gained that weight over years and years and years told you nothing in my lifestyle changed, nothing in my diet or anything changed. Yes, it did.
Yep.
You may have not even been able to perceive it because it's so small, and over time something changed because you changed.
And sometimes it's as simple as I've noticed people going from a moderately active job along the lines of not perceiving the change. They've gone from a moderately active job where they might get in 5,000 steps a day just through their normal function of work, not including after work or anything else, but just through their 8-hour shift, they would get in 5,000 steps. Well, now they've got a desk job. And now they're lucky if they're getting 1,000 steps in during their workday. Well, 4,000 steps is calories burned.
Yeah, it's so common. That example you laid out there is so common. Or like the woman in her 40s that's like, losing weight was so much earlier when I was 18. When you were 18, you walked around a college campus all day and played 3 recreational sports. Now you sit behind a desk.
Yeah. I'm actually, I'm hoping to eventually get an office at my full-time job. And that's actually something I've already started planning out, is the fact that I'm going to go from roughly 10 miles a day of slow state cardio doing my job to sitting behind a desk for 8 hours. That's a huge, huge calorie surplus at the end of the week.
Yeah. And as most people would just change jobs and then not change anything about their dietary patterns. And then like, what's going on? The weight just started coming on. Yeah, because you're in a surplus now. And that's another thing. Like most of the time when I'm working with people, they haven't earned the right from their body to lose any body fat anytime soon. Like vast majority of the time, I'm reverse dieting people, spending weeks to months at maintenance or a slight surplus. Because I'm dealing with women that have not been in a surplus, like a controlled surplus, their entire life. Always been pursuing fat loss. Their sex hormones are tanked. Their adrenals are tanked. They're eating, like a bird. Like literally, my favorite example I love to tell them to really understand like how messed up this is. The caloric intake of a toddler. A toddler is 1,000 to 1,500 calories, and they're coming to me consuming that. I'm like, do you see the problem? You want to lose weight. So let's say we drop down to 1,000 calories, Mrs. Jones. What happens when that stops working? Because you're going to hit a plateau. Should we drop down to 500, ride that out for as long as we can? Now we're at 0. Hey, Mrs. Jones, do you want to be dead?
Yeah.
Gotta go the other direction. You've got to build some muscle.
I actually have a client right now who is a amateur bikini competitor, and she came to me because her previous coach had her on 1,000 calories a day, and she's not even in prep right now. And
like tail end of prep, I can understand.
Yeah. So my immediate question, was, because I don't steal clients whatsoever. If somebody's already got a coach, they're going to have to come to me, and I'll have an honest conversation with them. But I do not take anybody else's clients. But she actually had watched one of these podcasts and reached out to me about it. and he had her on 1,000 calories a day. And she was, I think her next show is coming up in September of 2023. And she's like, I feel like shit. He's got me, and I'm not going to go too much into it. But when I found out that she was on 1,000 calories a day, my first response was, yeah, you're not eating enough.
Yeah.
Well, I have to stay. No. You're in off season right now. Right now, you should be in a health phase, taking care of your body.
Yeah.
Eating at maintenance is fine.
I'm so glad you said that, the off season. That is probably the most important thing that I learned from NCI, from the Nutritional Coaching Institute. It's nutritional periodization. Even if Mrs. Jones is not an athlete, we need to be able to look at your year and have an off season, a postseason, a preseason, an in season. Obviously, that doesn't look like it does for an athlete. Like in season for Mrs. Jones is actually in a calorie deficit. Off season is eating at maintenance, if not a slight surplus, building muscle, getting ready for the next in season fat loss phase. I'm so glad you said that.
Well, and back to something I'd like to pass on to people that are just, getting started with this is understanding that there's going to be, not just in your calories, but also in your weight, there's going to be periods where you're going to lose at a pretty good clip. And there's also going to be times that, you're going to go through a week where, whether it be cortisol, whether it be you've got obligations at work and they have a luncheon that you have to attend or something like that, that you're not going to drop as much. And that's okay.
They're the demise of my client.
Oh, so some of my viewers know this, and this is a good place to bring it up. I used to weigh almost 400 pounds. At my heaviest about 12 years ago, I was 397 pounds. And just, there's a whole long story I won't go into in that. But, there were times when I was losing weight. And like you said, for the really obese people, because I was definitely one of those guys that I had, easily 200 extra pounds on me. That first 60, 70 pounds melted off of me, just being more active. And I was making, and I'm going to use this to segue, I was making simple changes to my diet. Stuff like instead of going to Burger King and getting 2 double cheeseburgers and an order of fries, I was eating 2 double cheeseburgers and a small bag of Lay's. Now, we don't think of Lay's as being healthy or anything, but when you compare it to a large French fry, the 400 calories in that bag of chips is nothing compared to the 1,200 calories that's in that order of fries.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the tips that I like to give people starting out is once we've established that food diary, I'm not going to throw you on and I don't recommend this to anybody, I'm not throwing you on chicken and rice and broccoli. We're going to look at your diet and see where we can make minor changes that are livable and sustainable to your diet that you can live with.
Yeah.
And then as those things become habit, if we need to cut more, we start making steeper changes. I've got a client now that she actually just started with me just after Thanksgiving, and she just finished up her food diary. And the only change that I made to her first food diary was she was eating a Three Musketeers bar with her lunch every day. And I was just like, we could probably just cut out that candy bar.
Yeah.
And she dropped 4 pounds in the first month. Well, almost a month now, just from cutting out that candy bar.
Oh yeah, soda's a big one too. That was the biggest change I made at the start of I have not had a real soda in like over a decade for sure. Love diet soda. Give me a Sprite Zero all day.
So me being in the soda industry, it's kind of funny. I don't drink. I worked in the beer industry for almost a decade. I don't drink any of it. I work for the soda industry. I don't drink any of it.
Before I was a coach and a trainer, I worked at Domino's.
Yeah.
Didn't eat much of it.
Yeah, it's one of those, when you're around it all day, it's a little bit easier to ignore it. But where I was going with that is those of us that drink diet sodas and the zero sugar sodas, I don't think the majority of the country realizes there are actually bills going through the United States Senate right now to make full sugar soda illegal. Yeah, there's a bill going through right now that if it passes by the end of 2026 nationwide, you will not be able to get a full sugar soda or any beverage, like even a Gatorade, that's not zero sugar or diet in any container bigger than 8 ounces.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like
how that's going to play out.
Well, and there's no guarantee it's going to pass. I try to keep these shows from being political, but we all know that you have your super progressives that want to basically run everybody else's lives.
I can tell you right now, I am not the person to talk about politics to. I don't know what's going on. I honestly just pretend like it doesn't exist and focus on what's in front of me.
And that makes you a much happier human being.
Oh, 1,000%. That's why I don't get it. I don't get why people willingly engage in their own fear. That's what most of it is designed to do, is to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yep. I agree with that 110%. All right, so we've covered some basic nutrition, I kind of like to just summarize this up with, on the nutrition side, it's super important to keep track of your nutrition, but also all of it's pointless if it's not sustainable. If I could offer one piece of advice to the people that are just starting out, it's whatever changes you or your coach. If I could offer one piece of advice, period, across the board, it's find a decent coach and hire them. Having that resource, that accountability partner, and that person in your back pocket cheering you on will do more for you than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did a poll in my group yesterday or the day before, just asking what people were struggling with, and nobody voted for accountability. Like, really?
Yeah, I'll be the first one to say I've been, like I said, my mom was an amateur bodybuilder. When I graduated high school, I had 6-pack abs, the whole 9 yards, and I still got up to be over 400 pounds knowing what I was doing. Even today, accountability is the number one thing that I personally struggle with. It's so easy to sit there and say, you know what, I just don't feel like going to the gym today. It's going to be packed, and I just don't feel like dealing with people. It's not that
you are the hardest person for you to coach.
Exactly.
100%. It's so easy to talk ourselves out of the things we know need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Need to be done. And this is very dangerous over time. Because if you can't trust yourself to do the things you told yourself you're going to do, who can you trust? What are you doing? Where are you going? You have no direction. You're literally just at the whim of life, letting it blow you from happy place to sad place to happy place to sad place. Like, you have to be able to trust yourself. It's a very slippery slope with breaking promises to yourself.
I agree with that 110%, and I do my best to keep my promises to myself, but I'm also not going to lie. This is why, as a coach, I have a coach.
Yep.
Is because I understand the importance of having that. I mean, I can write my own workout programs. I write my own workouts. I write my own diets. I write my own gear protocols. I do all that myself. That being said, it's nice having a set of eyes that's more experienced than myself to double check it.
Yep.
But
absolutely,
outside of hiring a coach, the number one piece of advice that I like to give people is, like I said, if it's not sustainable, whatever you decide to do, whether it's diet, whether it's exercise, anything, if it's not sustainable, it's not going to work long term. You might get short-term results, but you're not going to get long-term results. And that's why fad diets don't work. That's why cleanses and stuff like that. That's why it's called a fad. It's just in fashion right now. Now, if we had to come up with some advice for people that are getting into the gym for the first time or the first time in a long time. Yeah. What advice do you have for those people?
So this isn't going to happen overnight. There's a lot of unconditioning these individuals have to do with themselves and their self-perception and their perception of what other people perceive of them ultimately doesn't matter. I should also preface that this is going to be a little heavy, but in 3 generations, everyone who knew you will be dead, including the people whose opinions stopped you from doing what you wanted to all along. So stop caring what other people think about you. You, the viewer, the listener, have just as much right to be in the gym as everybody else there. And I can promise you, everybody there is insecure. Probably the best in shape people there are the most insecure because that is their driving force. That is what got them in the gym in the first place, and becoming that again, that insecurity is what keeps them in there.
So
ultimately, I hope people get to a place where, like, anybody that I've talked to that's been lifting for more than 10 years, myself included, the reason we do it, the reason we keep doing it is always mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Looking good, naked, getting a really strong deadlift, squat, bench, all that stuff is really cool, but it falls wayside to the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So understand you have just as much right to be there as everybody else. Nobody is judging you, and if they are, it's probably not someone you want to associate yourself with anyway.
I especially love that last part. I especially love that. That's actually when someone reaches out to me, and actually I shouldn't even say when someone reaches out to me, because the majority of these conversations aren't people that actually come to me for coaching. They're people that I meet in day-to-day life. You know, when you're fairly in shape, you know, and you don't have to be in great shape, but just fairly in shape, people are going to ask what your secret is, you know, because we all think that there's a secret to it. And the secret is I show up every day and I bust my ass, whether it's in the kitchen or in the gym. And through conversation, you find that a lot of people are, you know, they're scared to be judged going into the gym. And I've found over the past, you know, well, the majority of my life that, like you said, the majority of the people in the gym that are the super in shape ones are the ones that are the most insecure. And truth be told, I was at the gym after work today. You could take 5 or 6 people that were in there with me, line them up, and I couldn't pick them out. Because most of us that are in the gym, we're so focused on what we are there to do, we're not even paying attention to anybody else.
Yeah.
And like you said, if they are and they're secretly, silently judging you, that's not somebody you want to associate with.
And I can assure you, like, if you go ask somebody for help, they will help you, especially the giant guys that look scary.
Oh, yeah.
More often than not, they're absolute sweethearts and would love to show you how to do this exercise correctly. They would love to.
Nothing makes me
have an amazing month.
Nothing makes me happier than when I'm in a gym, and whether it be, I especially love it when it's somebody younger that you can tell is just starting out and doesn't know where to start, or even somebody that, you know, is, you know, overweight in there, you know, the kind of people, you know, it's a meme, and I hate using memes, but I mean, sometimes they're just so relatable. You know, making fun of a fat person in a gym is like making fun of a homeless man at a job fair. You know, they're here doing the same thing we are, but I love it when I'm doing an exercise and, you know, or a movement, and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, could you spot me over here?" Or, "Hey, you look like you know what you're doing. Could you help me with this? You know, how does this machine work?" I light up for the opportunity to help people. And I found that when I was bigger, even though, you know, I understood a lot of exercise fundamentals, you know, machinery in the 15 years it took for me to put on that weight, you know, machines changed. And like you know, I'll never forget. I was at a Gold's close to here, and they have one of the hammer strength, lat pullover machines. One's got the big bar that goes over top of your head and you pull it forward. Love that machine. For the longest time, it was the only way I could ever connect with my lats. But I had no idea how to use it. And, I guess just through it being in the gym, they all have those little use labels on them. Yeah. That thing was so scratched up and messed up, you couldn't read it. And I was going in there on my lunch breaks midday, and, there weren't very many people in there. But there was this big man. He had to be every bit of 275, fucking ripped. Yeah. His name's Ronnie. Hell of a nice guy. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. But like, I'm trying to figure out the machine, and I sheepishly just walked up to him because he was the closest one to me. And I was just like, "Sir, excuse me. Do you know how this machine works?" And I watched this man that if you met him in a dark alley would scare the Jesus out of you. Literally turn into a little schoolboy, so happy that somebody's having a conversation with him. He ended up being one of my regular lifting buddies for about 3 years, till he moved out of the area.
That's amazing.
And I like sharing that story with people because, he was big. He was scary.
It wasn't what Ronnie Coleman was.
No. Speaking of which, it's Olympia weekend. Are you going to watch any?
Yep. I'm Team C-Bone, of course.
Hell yeah. Not going to lie, I'm kind of pulling for Nate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of pulling for Nate. I'd like to see somebody,
else. Yeah.
Well, not even somebody else, an up and comer, who has put in the work. Although I will say I don't follow professional bodybuilding nearly as close as I should doing what I do because I don't work with very many bodybuilders. But I like the fact that you can't pick a top 10. Out of the 30 people in the open, literally you can look at all 30 of them and make an argument for any of them.
Yeah.
From 3rd to 10th.
It's an interesting sport.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
I'm going to definitely suffer for 18 plus weeks to get on stage and have strangers judge my body.
In the smallest amount of clothing that I can legally get by with wearing.
Yep.
That's why I told my wife if I ever compete, I'm doing men's physique just because I'm not putting on a banana hammock.
Yeah, go with the board shorts.
Yep.
For sure. Yep. Usually, if I'm dealing with a physique athlete, which I have in the past, I'm usually fixing the hormones, thyroid, gut health, just from chronic crash dieting, not having a good off season.
That. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because that is actually something else that I wanted to cover. The importance of staying healthy while doing all of this. One of the big things I do on this podcast is I constantly preach about health phases. Now, the majority of what we cover here is usually, anabolics and things like that. So, there's no such thing as a safe anabolic. There's no such thing as a safe exogenous hormone. They're going to mess you up in some way, shape, or form. But that's why I preach health phases, periods where you come completely off of any exogenous substances and give your body time to recuperate.
Yeah,
yes, I was going to say that being said, for a lot of beginners that are getting into fitness, going to the gym for the first time, they get gung ho. It's all or nothing, and that's not healthy. You got to give your body time to stay healthy. You'll make better progress losing weight and gaining muscle, being healthy, than you'll ever make just beating yourself into the ground.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I take people through in the first phase of my program, where we go through metabolic restoration, go through getting your body back to homeostasis, back to balance, back to feeling good, having more energy, sleeping well, in control of your appetite, drinking enough water, all that basic stuff. Like sleep and water are so crucial. It's so easy to overlook. Literally, with just a week, you can feel like a completely different person.
I actually, it amazes me. This past summer, I had one of my drivers who came in, and it was a really hot day. He came in and he was flush and everything else. And I asked him, and I've talked fitness with this guy over the years. We worked together for a couple of years, and really fit guy. Plays I'll be honest with you, I forget what sport it is, but he plays on a local rec league. And I asked him, I was just like, you've been staying hydrated. And he's like, yeah, I've had a dozen bottles of water today. And I'm like, okay, so you've drank 6 liters of water. What have you eaten? Oh, I haven't had time to eat today. I was like, okay. So I actually walked over. We have, in the room we were in, we have a drawer that's just full of, like packets and sauces and stuff like that from when, people get extra when they go out to eat. And I literally grabbed a packet of salt and walked over and dumped it in his water. And I said, slowly sip on that over the next 10 minutes. And, his body had no electrolytes. He had drank so much water and sweated it out that his body had no electrolytes, and it's stuff like that. You got to make sure that you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's where labs and testing can be so valuable. So valuable. And if you're in a position where you can have coach and labs, even better.
Yes.
So much better. Like data is so important. And that's like where supplementation comes in, where I try to ease people away from supplements until we actually understand what you need to be supplemented, rather than just throwing a bunch of stuff at you. What are you actually deficient in? Let's fill in those nutrient gaps. Now, obviously, that can be done easily with just a well-formulated multivitamin, things like that. But everyone always wants to know what the magic fat loss supplement is.
Yeah,
what you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Yeah, the last episode of this, not the last one I recorded, the one I just released, I did an entire hour rant on there not being a magic pill. Because
and if there was one, which I think we will come up with eventually, to just boom, you're fit, muscular, shredded, I don't want it.
I agree. I agree.
Want it. It's not going to be the same.
No, part of I hate the actual saying, but the longer I do this, the more I find it to be at least motivationally true. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Which, like I said, I don't agree with it wholeheartedly, but there are very few foods that I'm willing to sit back and say, I'll eat this every day and put on 10 pounds, because I've put in the effort. But you're right. If there was just a magic pill you could take, every day, and then, all of a sudden, fat melted off, it's just a question of if you get the money to buy the pill. There's a certain amount of satisfaction when
That's
you,
you don't get the satisfaction of having put in the work, having done the actual hard thing. And I think that's what's wrong with our population as a whole right now, especially the young male crowd. People don't want to work hard. People don't want delayed gratification. They want everything now. They want it to be easy. And people are really messing up with their dopamine baseline. For example,
yes.
Like social media, pornography, video games, anything that gives you alcohol, binge eating, anything that gives you a huge spike in dopamine with very little effort required, stop doing that thing. Like seriously, as soon as possible. Per day, there needs to be exerted effort to earn that dopamine, to earn that.
That's actually one thing that I try to get all of my clients on board with, especially my male clients. No porn. No FAP. You're not allowed to masturbate. If you want to work with me, you're not allowed to masturbate.
Go have sex with women. Like,
yeah. You are doing this, but once again, the majority of my clients are, they're trying to lose some body fat, put on a little bit of muscle, and I'm not going to lie, the majority of them, it's I want to look good I want to look good naked. Okay, well, you want to put in this effort, you're not allowed to masturbate because you're going to put in this effort so that you look good naked. And if you're not there yet, well, now you have motivation because, in order to get yours, you're going to have to look good and go find a female, and then I've actually had quite a few clients tell me just after a week of no porn and no masturbation, how much better they feel, how much happier they are as human beings.
I genuinely feel like it is the male masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
When you release that, you lose it, at least for the day, for sure. Like every guy knows that, like post nut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a daze, like you can't really focus as well as you could before. So yeah, I'm definitely a huge.
Yeah, I think it was Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich that stated that all male energy is sexual energy, and every male accomplishment is a sexual accomplishment. It's just every great male accomplishment has come from the lack of actual sex.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing the last bit of it, but yeah, it's basically we as men, our energy is used for those purposes, and regardless of what you're doing, you can actually tie it back. I mean, everything from mowing the yard to going to the gym to, restoring a classic car to going to work. Every last bit of it can be tied back to some sort of sexual energy. And I'm a firm believer that when you masturbate, you are dispersing that energy, that motivation, and you're wasting it,
Right. Yeah. And like I said about the dopamine, you're getting this huge spike. And the thing is, you don't just drop the baseline, you drop the low baseline. And now this becomes your new baseline. That's why people don't have motivation. They quite literally have no dopamine. For the longest time, it was thought to be the neurotransmitter of pleasure, but it's the neurotransmitter of motivation, drive, focus. That's what dopamine does. And there's a really good book on this called Dopamine Nation, on how most of us are dopamine depleted.
I actually just downloaded that on my Audible the other day. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so it's that's one of my things.
If you really want to nerd out on neurology, Andrew Huberman, have you heard of him?
That's why I haven't had time to listen to that audiobook, is I've been binging the Huberman Project.
Yeah, I've been contemplating signing up for his premium subscription. I love this guy.
Yeah, his stuff is good enough to where I would actually pay for it. And
it helps me know all of my money is going towards funding more of this kind of research.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's very few. I'm very I don't want to say cheap. I'm very frugal with my money. I'm very selective of where my money goes, and not gonna lie, I'd have no problem sending some of my money his way.
Yeah.
For the content, I belong to. I've got a couple of Patreons that I personally belong to, from different YouTubers and different podcasts, and yeah, I don't mind doing it because the content that I get is so valuable to me that I'm willing to pay for it. I mean, I'm willing to pay $13 for a 2-hour movie. Why would I not pay $10? Or I mean, hell, actually, 3 of the podcasts that I support, their max Patreon is $5 a month. Why would I not throw $5 a month for the hours of knowledge and entertainment I get? Maybe one of these days I'll start a Patreon.
Right. Yeah. You put an idea in my head too, for sure.
Yeah. But no, we're getting a little long, but I think the if I could summarize all of this in one sentence for everybody, it would be take your time, do your research, and don't give up.
Right there. Right there. If that don't, one of the first things I tell people when you start working together is you literally can't fuck this up. You can't.
Hmm.
The only way for you to fuck this up is by giving up, by staying in the ditch. What I do is I create a lane for people. I create a highway, freeway. I put up guardrails. They go over and fall into the ditch. We put you back on the freeway. Keep going. It's the only way you can fuck this up is by giving up.
I
recall something I wanted to add here. Goal setting, because we're around that New Year's resolution. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be timely. But I think what's even better than setting goals, there's something wrong with setting goals, but I think you need to focus more on the skills that are required to accomplish that goal. Just like if you're building a business. If I'm really good at writing copy, I'm really good at writing articles, does that mean I'm going to have a successful business and make money? No. There are many, many other skills I need to acquire in order to make a successful business. So there's multiple skills you're going to have to acquire in order to be a successful dieter and make this a long-term thing. So that's going to be creating food awareness, learning what's in food, how much of what is in food, how much do I need, learning various exercises, especially the compound movements, learning progressive overload, and we need to add weight to the bar, we need to do this, we need to do that. All of these are done. Meal prep, good sleep hygiene, going for walks after meals. All of these are skills that you're going to have to acquire along the way. So focus on the skills that you need instead of loose work. For sure.
Agreed. Once again, I hate quoting memes, but for sustainable, long-term, whether it be weight loss, muscle gain, anything, you have to fall in love with the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And learning those skills, the best part about learning those skills is once you learn them, you have them for life. Even if you were to, go over the guardrail, you have the skills to step back over and start back up and keep going. You may not start as fast.
Business. If I were to enter in another career, I still understand sales. I still understand marketing, branding, copy. All of those things will translate over into whatever field I go into.
Yeah.
So, on a completely different side note, for anybody that's struggling with their financial health, invest your money in skills. Skill acquisition is the best that you can do with your money. Don't worry about the S&P 500. Don't worry about day trading or crypto. Pay people that are further ahead of you to learn and get a head start. I would have given anything to have a coach or a nutrition coach when I started. I never had anyone in person teaching me how to do the exercise. I never had, up until 2 years ago, I did hire a coach just to kind of see what it's like on the inside. But that process could have gone so much faster. I could have saved so much money had I had a professional on the other end.
I actually feel like where I'm at today, I could have been at 3 to 5 years ago had I hired a coach. And for me, I'll be honest, for me, it wasn't a financial thing. It was a embarrassment thing. I didn't want to share the way I felt about myself with somebody else. And it was honestly, as far as fitness goes, it was the biggest mistake I ever made because I thought I knew it all. Like I said, I grew up around bodybuilders, I grew up around boxers and, some of the fittest people in the world. It's like, I know what I'm doing. Well, if I knew what I was doing, I wouldn't have gotten to over 400 pounds,
Right.
And it's real easy to sit back now, look back and say that. But no, I agree. If you're going to spend money, spend it on learning skills. I ran my own sign business for 15 years. My sign business wasn't making signs. Making signs is easy. my son was 8 years old and working in the back, helping me, actually build the signs. It was easy. An 8-year-old could do it. The marketing to make the business successful is a skill that I still use it. I use it to market this podcast. I use it to market myself at a job interview. I use it to market my coaching. All of that I learned from running that business and learning how to do marketing. So yeah, if you're going to invest money, invest it in learning skills.
Buy your car in cash.
Yes.
Can't buy a car in cash, save up enough money until you can buy a car in cash.
Amen. The average car payment in the United States, I actually just read this the other day. The average car payment in the United States right now is $564 a month. That is more than the mortgage on my first house.
Yeah, I swear I saw recent numbers that were 700.
It would not surprise me. The one that I was reading, I think, was dated for 2020, and I hadn't seen an updated one for 2021 or 2022. But look at the cost of a car. You look at a 2019 Honda Civic, brand new off the showroom floor, was $24,000 to $25,000. Now, a comparably equipped brand new Honda 2022 Civic is $38,000. It's gone up by 50% in a few years. And those, the payment, if the cost of the car goes up, the payment goes up. But our wages don't go up the same rate as that does.
No.
As the cost of stuff goes. That's why it's called inflation.
Yeah, I was in a similar situation like that a year or two ago. I had this nice sports car type Toyota Avalon, but between payment of the car and insurance, it was like $600 a month. I can't do this. I sold it back to the dealership and actually netted $400.
Yep. Yeah. One of my counterparts, he does what I do at another depot in another state. He was down here helping us, and he had bought a Toyota Supra, the new Supras. He had pre-ordered it like months before it came out, and he paid cash for it. Guy's a genius when it comes to money. He bought it, drove it for about 15,000 miles, was actually at a gas station. And this guy walked up to him and said, "I'm getting ready to order that identical car. It's going to cost me X amount of dollars, and I'm going to have to wait 24 months to get it. I'd rather just buy yours." And X amount of dollars was $14,000 more than he had paid for it. So my buddy looked at him and said, "I'll sell it to you for the same price as you're going to pay the dealership to pre-order one." The guy didn't even blink. He said, "Follow me to the bank." Yeah, he made 14 grand and drove it for 20,000 miles because that's how much it had appreciated. This is actually the first time that I can recall ever hearing of that vehicles actually have appreciated in value.
Yeah. Usually the second you drive it off the lot, it's going down.
Yeah. And now it's because so much stuff is pre-ordered, the right person is willing to pay a premium for it. So
these next 2 years are definitely going to be interesting, to say
yes.
the least. I can promise you a lot of people in our industry are going to go under.
Oh yeah. I actually know of like 4 coaches that have had to completely restructure their entire business model over the past 2 years, just because they have so many clients that just can't afford it anymore. Let's face it, what we do is a luxury. Yeah. People want
it is, for sure.
Now I don't view what we do as a luxury. I view what we do as an absolute necessity at this point. And that's not marketing. That's not hyperbole. I actually believe that the majority of people in this country are in such bad shape that they need someone that does what we do just to get back to a decent place in their lives. I'm a firm believer, like you were talking about earlier, about, once you've been in, in the gym and dieting and so much for so long, it becomes more about your mental health, regardless of the reason why you started doing it. And I'm actually a firm believer that if Americans would just be more active in the right ways, exercising, even if it's just your wife and your two kids take the dogs on a 15-minute walk after dinner every day,
Yeah.
your mental state would be improved so much that, you could possibly come off depression medication with time. I mean, we are the most heavily medicated country in the world. And I'm a firm believer 80% of that could just go away with proper diet and exercise.
Yeah. I mean, we've already disproven the serotonin model for depression.
Mm-hmm.
The efficacy for most of these over-the-counter prescription medications is completely out the window. We can compare, like literally head-to-head. We have studies on this now. Strength training has the same, if not better, effect as over-the-counter antidepressant medications, but there's not that adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
It compounds and it gets better over time, whereas it doesn't with the over-the-counter medication.
Yeah. I can honestly say that the best I have ever felt is after a good workout. You go in and,
Yeah.
And it's not even I went in and I killed chest, it's I had a great workout.
I feel good.
My
That's a
muscles
huge thing
were,
for people to take away is you should feel good after your workout.
yes.
Crawling out of there, fire that trainer.
Yep.
Fire that trainer.
Who was it that I heard? Oh God. I forget if it was Skip Hill or Andrew Barry or Scott Stevenson that said it. All phenomenal coaches, much higher up in the pecking order than I am. I forget which one said it, but it was, the purpose of exercise is to stimulate, not annihilate. If you cannot walk out of the gym, that doesn't mean that you did not work. That just means that it's going to take a lot longer to recover before you can do it again.
Exactly. 100%.
So I had a couple of questions, but I kind of feel like I'm going to throw this one up on the screen. But basically, I feel like we've already answered it, but just for the sake of putting it up there, I think it'll be a quick recap. So this was set in eating clean at about 500 calorie deficit a day for the past 3 weeks. I lost 1 pound the first week, but the scale hasn't moved since. I do cardio 3 days a week, getting impatient. Why hasn't the scale moved? And I kind of feel like I wanted to put this one on here because I feel like by us reviewing the answer to this, it's going to summarize this entire episode.
Yeah. So, if I had this person in front of me, the first question I would ask is, what does eating clean mean? Pretty vague, could mean a lot of different things, but I'm assuming you're eating mostly whole natural foods. That's great. Eating coverage across all the food groups, not be restrictive or anything like that. At what you believe to be a 500 calorie deficit for 3 weeks, which, let's be honest, is not very long. You already lost a pound in the first week, so if you haven't celebrated that, I would do that now. Celebrating weight loss does not mean doing the things that cause you to gain weight. You do not reward weight loss by now going and eating a bunch of food. Extremely counterintuitive. But the scale has not moved since. I do cardio 3 days a week, getting impatient. Why hasn't the scale moved? So there could be a number of reasons for this, which we already touched on. Your initial calculation of how many calories you need to be eating to create that 500 calorie deficit may have been inaccurate, whether that be the calories outside of the equation, so your caloric expenditure, maybe that was actually lower than you estimated it to be. Another thing that could be going on here, I see that you're not doing any strength training, which is integral to the fat loss process if you're actually trying to, let's be honest here, you don't really care about the number on the scale, you care about what you see in the mirror. If I have somebody that is 200 pounds, 40% body fat, and somebody that's 200 pounds and 10% body fat, a totally different unit. So understand that that is what we're after here. And just because the scale is going down doesn't mean we're not making progress. Fat loss is not linear. Everybody wants it to be this straight down process from start point to end point. It's going to be all over the place. But we have to zoom out, be patient. You said, I'm getting impatient. I'm sorry, but be more patient. It's a pretty blunt way to say it, but there's no other way to fix that than just be more patient. And reevaluate your calories. Another 2 weeks go by, the scale still isn't budging. Take away 200 calories, see what happens. I bet you it starts moving in the right direction.
Perfect. I got nothing to add to that. And like I said, that to me basically sums up everything. I think the impatient is the big thing on that. For me, I've noticed with my clients, it's like, hey, I've got a wedding coming up that in 6 weeks that I've got to go to, and I need to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, the only way I can get you to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks is to cut off one of your legs.
Yeah.
It's like that's not healthy, and I can't help you with that. You got to be patient. Like we said, it took years to put on the weight. It's going to take some time. Maybe not as long, depending on how much you're willing to sacrifice and how dedicated you are, but it's still going to take time to lose it. And if
that person that asked the question to anybody else that may be watching this now or in the future, I want you to be very honest with yourself on how accurate and consistent you are tracking. I said this earlier. We're not just tracking Monday through Friday and then we go off the rails on the weekend. Every single day, you need to hit that target, or at least within a range. I usually like to give people a range. So let's say I do all the math, figure out everything out. John needs to eat 2,000 calories a day to lose body fat. I'm going to put a plus and minus 150 on the end of that just to give him a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah.
But with the understanding that it might be a little slower if you find yourself always on the upper end of that range. You have to accept that. If you want it to be a little faster, John, you're going to have to eat a little less.
Agreed 100%. I do the same thing. I try to give people a range to work on and, let them know, hey, I'm going to make this as expedient as I can for what you're willing to do. And let's just be honest with ourselves. One thing I did want to say on the subject of being honest with yourself and tracking, a lot of people also need to bear in mind that when you read the nutritional label on something, on anything you buy out of the grocery store, the FDA allows plus or minus 20%. So if it says that it's 100 calories per serving, it could be as much as 120 calories per serving. So, yeah, and it's one of those, it's like, there's no way to know which way it goes.
Right. So I think the biggest thing to take away there is it's not that tracking doesn't work. It's the number you're trying to hit right now doesn't work because there's these built-in inaccuracies. So it's not that tracking doesn't work. You just need to go a little bit lower, not to 1,000.
Yeah.
A little bit lower. So for that viewer, I'd cut 200-300 calories and start lifting weights 3 times a week. And then if you really want to do cardio, just walk. Get 8,000 to 12,000 steps a day. Everybody listening to this can accomplish that. 8,000 to 12,000 steps a day. All the cardio you need.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of people. Most people can hit 10,000 steps with a 30-minute walk daily. Add it into their normal daily routine. Most people can hit 10,000 steps just by adding a 30-minute walk, which, weather permitting, we should be doing after meals anyway.
Yeah. That one never works for me. I live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Had a blizzard today. Guess who got 10,000 steps?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Your will just has to be stronger than your excuses.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
any of us can do this. Well, thank you so much for coming in here and rapping with me for a little bit.
Awesome.
I thoroughly enjoyed having you. I'll definitely have to have you back on. And
I'd love to. I'd love to.
yeah. Now, how can people reach out to you if they want to hire you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have my name. If you just search Isaiah Mitchell, you'll probably see me. I look like a personal trainer in my profile picture. But I have a Facebook group called Metabolism and Fat Loss Secrets for Exhausted Men and Women. Go ahead and join in there. Um, just put in your group questions that you're interested in coaching. I'll reach out to you, make sure we're a good fit. I do want to throw out there that I don't just work with everybody and everybody. Um, there is a qualification process we need to go to. I need to make sure we actually get along, and I can help you accomplish what it is you're doing.
Hang on one second. I am going to. Where is it? Where's my? Boom! There we go.
Hey, that's the community. Yeah, if you're interested in just learning more, getting access to more free information, I put out tons and tons and tons of guides, posts, live trainings for free. And of course, if you do want a one-on-one individualized approach, reach out to me and see if you're a good candidate.
Well, I can honestly say I've attended quite a few of your live trainings, and I absolutely love them. And I actually find myself going back and watching the replays because sometimes I have to watch it 2 or 3 times that they're so full of information. I've got to watch them 2 or 3 times to actually absorb everything.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we're talking about hormones, gut health, the digestive system. And that's definitely my favorite stuff. I really enjoy working with the advanced clients and super complex stuff.
Now, maybe I have to get to talk to you about what happens to me after I get above 5,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you again for coming on, and we're definitely going to have to do this again. So, some quick housekeeping, guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and if y'all have any questions for the next episode, feel free to leave them in the comments. I try to pull those weekly, and that's pretty much it. Y'all have a good day.